studio with me today is Father Kristopher Cowles. Welcome, Father Cowles.
Thank you very much.
He is the pastor at the St. Thomas More Newman Center in
correct.
Vermilion.
Sometimes called pastor, sometimes called director. Just depends.
Director. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to say that, frankly, and I should have asked you before we started.
I'm supposedly in charge. Yep.
Pastor it is. Director of the St. Thomas More Newman Center. So you've been hanging out in Vermilion.
I have been. It's
For
coming
years.
up right around like 5.5 months.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah,
It feels like so much longer.
it does. But Christmas is, that 6-month period
Yeah.
right after the transitions of
Right.
the bazillion priests who all moved this summer.
Yes, because that was basically how many moved.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have Father Cowles come in because, of course, as this airs, it is right around Christmas time. It'll air on radio on the 26th. And many college students are home right now.
And I'm sure they're glad that they're home. As long as their brain can relax from studies and school and things like that.
They're done with finals. They're done with research papers or whatever it is, and they can relax for, 2 or 3 weeks?
It's close
now?
to 3 weeks for most of the
weeks.
state schools.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So they're enjoying their time at home. I wanted to talk about sometimes parents, families might notice that maybe their college student who has now come home is maybe a little different with their faith. All
Really?
of a sudden.
They're not perfect still?
Sometimes, right.
Oh my gosh.
They may be backtracking a little bit, or, there might be some differences. And so we wanted to talk about that a little bit and how parents can react to that, what they can do to help their child or I shouldn't say child, because they're adults now. They're young adults.
They're burgeoning adult is the phrase I like to put.
Okay.
Yes, they're burgeoning adult.
Okay. Or adult.
Yes.
As they probably like to be called too.
Often
Certainly not.
do.
I mean, they are their parents' child. But all right. So you have been at the Newman Center now for a little bit. And as you told me, you work mostly with people who are quite involved with their faith.
Most definitely.
But I have to imagine that you probably have encountered some college students that are maybe not quite where you wish they would be.
Even some of the kids that I worked with at Our Lady of Guadalupe, I'll see them on campus and they'll be like, "Father, I forgot you're here." And I'm like, "I am.
Or that church exists."
But if you want to come by sometime, that would be great. I'd love to see you at the Newman Center." "What's the Newman Center? What is that place?" "Well, it's a special place, Catholic." "Oh, it's Catholic?"
Yeah.
Like, why do you think I'd be on campus otherwise?
Right. Like, are you going back to school? No, I am not.
No.
So can you tell us a little bit about what the Newman Center's like down there first? What do you guys do? What's your purpose besides just being Catholic on campus?
That is awesome. That's such a great question. This last year, we've been doing a lot of searching and really looking at the identity of what the Newman Center is all about.
Mm-hmm.
While a lot of people want it to be a home away from home, and it really is, it's meant to be a home away from home. Every student should feel free to come inside the doors and just relax and be. We do have a library, a study room. We've got a large kind of lounge where people can watch movies, hang out, play games, and we have $1 dinners every week.
Nice.
Pay $1, get a good home-cooked meal. Most of the time it's
Who
home-cooked.
cooks it?
It ranges from the students to sometimes having it catered, and sometimes I cook.
Oh, my goodness.
Thanksgiving this year, I cooked 3 turkeys, 20 pounds of potatoes, all this other stuff. And usually we have like 60 to 80 kids. We have like 150 show up.
Oh, my goodness.
It's crazy. But it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome because they came in the doors. They felt welcomed. They felt like it was really a space where they could flourish and really grow in their friendships. So it is a home away from home, but first and foremost, it's meant to be a place where they encounter Jesus Christ.
Right.
And they grow both in their faith. They discover their vocation. They learn what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. And while those two are very much there, we're working really hard on beginning to allow the students to encounter Christ more often at the Newman Center.
Right.
And to be that place where they meet him and they grow in their own personal relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. Do you guys work with kind of hand in hand with Focus much?
We do.
Do
Yeah,
you?
we've got 5 Focus missionaries on campus.
Oh, wow.
They're rock
Is that
stars.
more than usual?
Well, there's like a special discount if you go from 4 to 5. I know most people don't realize this, but there's a discount if you have 5 missionaries on campus. So we've got 3 lady missionaries and 2 men who are missionaries, and they lead Bible studies. They do evangelization and outreach. They disciple students, which means they teach them what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. And they also lead some of those disciples to leading their own Bible studies. which we've seen great success with in this last year.
Yeah.
Also, they're just cool and they're
They
fun to
are.
hang around with, and people want to be around the Focus
Yep.
Missionaries because they're amazing.
They're really good at what they do, is what I've
Yeah.
learned. A lot of priests became priests because of a Focus missionary,
It's
or
very
at least
true.
started on the road to that.
Yeah.
So it's quite
Or became
interesting.
Focus Missionaries themselves, and then
Right.
later on became priests.
Right. It's quite a priest machine over there.
Yeah, it's in a very interesting culture.
Yeah.
In truth.
So they really help. They probably see more students who may be falling away from their faith than you do, just because they're out kind of really approaching students more than maybe you have the opportunity to do.
Very much so.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, they're out there on campus with the students. But for so many of them, even for instance, in their Bible studies, they have people who aren't necessarily practicing per
Right.
se the faith, but are just in that kind of entry level of coming back to like understanding what it means to study the scriptures or be part of something.
Yeah.
For so many of those Bible studies, it's less about like pushing them into the mold of organized religion, even though that's a big piece of it, and more about just getting them to seriously think about what is faith? Who is Jesus? Do you know him? Do you have a relationship with him? Have you ever cracked open a Bible before?
Right.
What does that look like? And then having activities that encourage them to participate. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we had events all throughout the course of the fall just to get people in the doors. It was less of trying to force them into a chapel and just getting them to find a place where they belong
Right.
and they feel welcome, and that they know that they're not going to be judged based off of where they're at in their life. For so many of the students who begin to kind of slowly fall away, part of it is they've just had the faith their entire life.
Right.
And they wonder, what would happen if I didn't like go to mass on a Sunday?
My parents aren't
And-
going to know.
It's true. And my very first Sunday homily was, guess what? If during the course of the semester you don't go to mass, you are not going to spontaneously combust.
Right.
Like your parents might have taught you up to this point. However, while you will survive, you may not thrive.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, like, I did the same thing as all of you. And I rebelled for a while, and I realized I'm not the person I want to be.
Right.
I am a much better person when I'm living my faith than when I'm not. So just encouraging them to live that faith throughout the course of the year and to say, really think about this. Take the time to invest and say, is this my faith? Is this what I'm going to believe? Am I going to say yes to this?
Right. So what is it about college, about going to college, and especially that age group that kind of does this, pulling them away from their faith?
I would say first and foremost, they're trying to discover what it means to be an adult and how to live that faith. They no longer have anyone driving them to church on a regular
Right.
basis. Yes, the occasional mom will call them up and say, did you go to mass this weekend? Because my mom definitely did.
Especially
And
in
I
the
love her.
beginning, yes.
Thank you, Mom, if you're watching this. I appreciate the calls on if I was going to church or not. I did go to church most of the time. If I lied, I'll confess it later, I promise. But I know, like, for so many of them, they don't have the persistent Catholic guilt behind them.
Right.
Or sometimes the nagging that we've had growing up.
Right.
And for many of them, while there's a church on campus, they're like, well, what is it? What's going to happen there? How does this work for us? And that's why we tried to do so much outreach in the beginning to say, yeah, come by, have fun, join us in barbecues and fun events. We did one that was, it was a men's event, which was axes, fire, and steaks. All the women were like, why can't we have axes and fire and steaks? We just have charcuterie boards. And we're like, it's everyone's
believe you can
different,
say that
okay?
word.
I had to learn. I had to learn charcuterie. I'm learning. But for so many of these students, for them, they're trying to figure out what it is that they truly believe.
Right.
They've had their parents backing them up and walking with them in the faith. And still, those things are important to them, especially if they personally invested in going to a youth group and participating in things as they were growing up. But once they get to college, there's so many things vying for their attention. I remember going to the activity fair and being like, there's like 50 organizations here, and everyone wants you to participate in something, and you only have so much time.
Right.
And as a freshman, you want to say yes to everything,
Yep.
but at a certain point, you reach your breaking point, and
Yeah.
you decide what's most important, what's going to be a priority, and what is not.
Right.
And for many of them, just church isn't the priority on their list.
Right.
Also, they're in an atmosphere when they can party, and people encourage them to party
What?
and have
No.
fun with those parties. They're going to evolve in fraternities and sororities and going to games and all of these other activities that are all drawing them in. And for so many of our students, more than anything else, they want to belong.
Right.
Some of them keep the same friends they had when they were in high school, but some are looking for new friends and trying to find people. some of those friend groups are awesome and incredible. Some of them are toxic.
Right.
But they don't even realize it at that time.
Right.
And even within a college setting, with some of the professors who are there, not all of them, because we have some really good professors who
Right.
even come to the Newman Center.
Yeah.
But some of them are like, why would you want to be Catholic?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to live out your faith?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the opiate of the masses, isn't it? You know, using those phrases. And people start to think like, there must be something wrong with me if I practice the faith.
Right.
Instead of like, no, there's something right with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But even I've got one student right now who's considering becoming Catholic at the Newman Center. Well, a number of them who are. And I'm like, I don't want to shove this down your throat. I want you to ask the questions. I don't
Right.
want to be the one to ask questions. Bring any question you have, anything you're struggling with, and don't be afraid to ask.
Sure.
Because this is also a time when you should have that free, open forum to really delve deep in your life and in what it is that you believe.
Yeah, for sure. So if parents are experiencing this, they're noticing that their college student isn't going to mass or whatever, should they panic?
No, do not panic.
Okay.
Do
'Cause a
not
lot
hit
of
the
times
panic
parents
button.
do.
Don't yell at the pilot of the airplane asking, where are the oxygen masks? I need to put the oxygen mask on right now. No, do not panic. Do not panic. More than anything else, begin to just continually invest in your kids. Love them as best as you can with all of your heart, obviously. But then begin to ask questions like, is there other things that are going on?
Right.
And not to do it in a way that's going to cast blame on them.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that would be so easy to do.
it is.
Yeah.
It really is to say, what's wrong with you? Are you not carrying on what we've believed all these years? Why aren't you being the child that I raised you to be? All of this sort of stuff. And then it adds guilt upon guilt layer. Instead of them just saying, you know, I'm here to support you and love you. Is there a reason that you haven't been able to go? Or I heard there's a really weird, crazy, fun priest at the Newman Center. Maybe you should check him out. I heard he teaches
No one
people how
says
to
that,
throw
Father
tomahawks.
Cowles.
That's what I say about myself, but whatever. Nevertheless, but it's entering into an honest and open dialogue to say, have there been times that you've been bullied for
Right.
your faith?
Right.
Are there times when you just want to not talk about this and you got to give them the freedom to?
Right.
But then to invite, that is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
To invite as much as possible the students to say, hey, if you haven't gone, don't be afraid to come this Sunday. Come with us, please. We'd love to have you. If you haven't been going this time, I'm not going to guilt you into
Right.
going. I might invite you to go to our confession service while you're home, but if you say no, that's okay.
Right.
I'm not going to be here saying you're a horrible person because you're not going to church.
Right.
So that's the big thing. And then one of the realities that I love from John Paul II is to propose the faith, not impose the faith.
Yes.
So when we impose something upon our kids, what can easily happen is they say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Versus saying, hey, I want to invite you to do something. I want you to look at something beautiful. Hey, could we watch a movie together tonight?
Right.
And to find something that's beautiful and appealing and good. One of the things that's been awesome in these last 2 years is the Chosen series.
Oh, yes. I love
That has
those.
been so appealing and fresh and beautiful that many people watch it and are like, wow, like this was the life of Jesus. I thought it was always like deep, dramatic, scary music and Jesus was walking around and people were serious all the time and they never had fun. No, they're normal human beings.
That's the best thing about that series. That really portrays the normalcy, and they're just like us. They lived in a completely different time, but they struggle just like we did.
They really did.
Yeah.
They really did. So keeping those things in mind, the conversations that you have with your kids, the ones that you have that are so important are, how is school going? What's been going on at school? Have you heard of the Newman Center? Have you dropped by there at all? Has church been important to you? Have you found friends? Have you found
Right.
people who accept you and love you and are walking with you?
Oh, that's huge.
How are your classes going? I know they might be scary. Are you not eating food at the muck? Or you're nearby, like, are you eating on campus?
Right.
Or is the food terrible? Maybe
Right.
we can write in a letter or something of
Right.
that sort. Because there's so many things that you learn
Right.
and that you listen to. And like, ask, what was the most fun that you had in this semester? What were the things that you really enjoyed? Because we're seeking, for instance, to have as many fun, enjoyable
Yeah.
times as possible to draw the kids in. And it's not just to draw them into the Newman Center, it's so that they can have fun and realize, wow, like we can have fun doing this stuff and enjoying ourselves.
Yep.
There
You
was,
build a community.
oh,
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
One of the students this last semester had been in the party scene for most of the semester and then been invited to one of our barn dances. And he was like, there's just something different. there's just a different environment here. Like, we're having fun, we're enjoying ourselves. Not everyone's here sloshed or completely drunk.
Right.
And they're like having fun with each other,
fun.
talking to each other. And it is a blast. It's so much fun. Most of the students don't want to leave when they go to those dances.
Right.
I usually have to, just because they think I'm a chaperone and because my dancing's so bad that I just have to get out of there. But
I feel like we should make him dance or something just to see
no,
it. But
no, you don't want that. You don't want that. The camera would break.
So, do you think sometimes it's difficult for parents to be that person that approaches them? And would you recommend someone else in the family? Like, is it better for a brother or sister, especially if you have an older brother or sister?
It can be good for a brother or sister, but at the same time, it can feel like there's spies being sent in on a covert mission.
I hadn't thought about that.
I think a lot of parents might not realize that, but when your brother who's never talked to you about the faith all of a sudden says,
Yes.
"Hey, have you been going to church? Did mom set you up for this? Is dad waiting outside? Is there a tap on you? Are you being tapped right now?"
Yeah. That could totally happen.
It can be good. But
especially
I think,
if they had if they're known to be really strong in their faith to begin with, that might work.
That might work.
Okay.
But I think a lot of the time is naturally letting it evolve.
Yeah.
Naturally bringing up questions and not, like I said, jumping in and saying, "Hey, have you heard about this? And have you been doing this?" kind of thing. Because sometimes it can feel really non-organic.
Right.
Almost like it's, you're just putting it in there just to see where they're at.
Right.
So having the questions come up and even for the invitation for them to come on Sunday
Right.
to Mass, like I said, invitation to come on Sunday, invitation to come at Christmas, invitation to come to those services or to do those sorts of things can be really big.
Yeah.
Not just to say, "Hey, you're getting up and going to Mass with me tomorrow, right?" Right? You better get up. It can feel difficult.
Right.
The other thing too, and this is just for parents to realize, so many young people feel like they're being looked upon as kids again when they get home.
Yeah.
They've been beginning to learn what it means to be an adult. They're not totally there yet, obviously, but they're beginning to learn that. So when you look down upon them and treat them as the kids they've always been, and I know that's hard as parents, I get that.
Yeah.
They can feel like they're being demeaned.
Yeah.
Or seen as less than they are. And then immediately they kind of push away.
Right.
They
They'll
rebel.
kind of shut down from talking to you. Yeah. Very good advice. Okay. So you said that you're kind of seeing some growth in the Newman Center.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks be to God.
So what's the most encouraging thing you're seeing down there?
Well, anywhere from Mass attendance. Now, daily Masses have been kind of slowly growing.
You have daily Masses down there.
Yeah. we
Wow.
do.
Okay.
On a regular basis. Yep.
See,
pretty
you can
much every
tell
day.
I did not go to the Newman Center. Okay, I went to church, but I did not go to the Newman Center at SCSU. I wasn't even there when I was there. Probably was.
It was. You're not.
90s?
Yeah,
Early
it was in the 90s. It was
Okay.
there in the 80s. And I believe it was there in the 70s too. So, no judgment. No judgment.
I went to church. Well, I lived in Watertown a lot of the time when I was going to school.
You don't need to explain. It's okay. You're not digging your grave right now.
I feel like I am, and I'm not even trying to.
So we've got more attendance at daily Masses. Sunday Masses are blooming, which is awesome. And we're getting more volunteers for music and things like that. But the regular events we have been increasing. The amount of students are participating, but also just students who find it to be their home.
Yeah.
And just enjoy themselves there. The missionaries are doing great work. In the course of this last semester, they've increased the amount of Bible studies that they have. They're having more disciples. And those who are there are doing phenomenal work. I am so thankful for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those kids, those folks, I'm telling you, we actually have supported a couple of them off and on over the years, and they're so important to the campus life.
Yeah.
Those focus kids, to just bring those students in. And I mean, I think really nowadays young adults, I have to stop doing that, but yeah, they're kids to me. But they really just want community.
They
want
do.
a place to be, to belong.
Yeah.
And even if they're not super strong in their faith yet, that can come as they're spending time in that area. I'm sure that's what you've seen.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, the dollar dinners, a lot of people who come to dollar dinners are not necessarily regular participants at the Newman Center, but they know that there's a free meal that costs $1 that's typically better than what they receive at their cafeteria.
No.
So, I mean, anywhere from beef stew and like Thanksgiving meals and that kind of stuff has been awesome.
Yeah.
But there's no sense in which that they have to be part of a Bible study because they're coming to those sorts of things.
Right.
Or like, During the week leading up to Halloween, we did a night in which we watched The Conjuring. And I was able to break it apart and say what was real and what was Hollywood.
Oh, interesting.
Which drew a lot of students in just because they got the chance to be like, so we're going to watch a horror movie in the presence of a priest in a Newman Center, but he's going to tell us what is freakily real and what is just Hollywood.
I just need to be able to do this to see what's going to happen,
but
right?
It was cool
Yeah.
because a lot of people who regularly wouldn't attend did,
Right.
just because of like they're horror movie buffs and they wanted to see. But then they got the chance to ask all kinds of questions.
Yeah.
So
sounds
it's
really
making
cool.
those fun but enjoyable situations and spaces where people can come in
Yeah.
and enjoy themselves. Whether they're also, this is a big thing, whether they're Catholic or Protestant or non-practicing
Right.
as well. That's overall the final mission.
Right.
It's not just the Catholics on campus. It's
Yeah.
all of the students on campus that
Yep.
you want to serve.
That's huge. Well, we are out of time, which is really unfortunate. But I think you gave parents really something to think about as their college students are home over Christmas.
Not just their kids.
Not
Yeah.
just their kids, but they're still their kids. But yes, not just their kids. So I really appreciate you coming in and talking to us a little bit. I hope that helps the parents. I'm sure it will.
I hope so.
Thanks a lot, Father Cowles.
Glad to.
All right. Next week, actually, Father Cowles is going to come back for the next week. We're going to hear his story of how he became a priest, how he got his call to the priesthood. I'm sure it will be fascinating. Can't wait. That is it for us today. Hope you'll join us again next week for more Catholic Views.